Hi everyone, welcome to this week's Short Attention Span webinar. Kelly, it is raining business.
Yay!
It is crazy busy. And we got to talk about survival techniques because I'm not going to survive. It's funny, things are really crazy busy for me right now. That's not why I wrote this, but I am talking to a lot of customers who are saying, "Oh my gosh, Bill, I can barely talk to you. I've got so much stuff going on." So
That's so good to hear.
it
I
is good
love
to hear.
hearing that. It makes me happy.
I know it does. It does. It's wonderful. So let's talk about some survival techniques. Number one, recognize the fact that it's temporary. This too shall pass. Okay? And I think you make, just knowing that, you make certain sacrifices. It doesn't mean that you work 18-hour days. It doesn't mean that you work weekends. But, you've got choices to make during the day, and you have to realign some of your thinking. It might come down to, I'm not going to take lunch, although I think one of the things you got to do when it's crazy busy is to take care of yourself.
Right.
Right? But you just mentally say, this is temporary, and I've got to apply a different set of rules. Next thing up is you say no a lot. What am I going to say no to, Kelly, for example?
Well, again, it's all about it's about priorities and perspective. So it may be that it's more extracurricular things. Maybe your church asks you to sit on a panel or a committee or another civic organization that you belong to wants you to take a more active role, and you have to say, look, we can revisit this again in 60 days, but I can't commit to this right now because my work and my family are too important to me. Or some of those things may be internal. Maybe you sit on the company's fund committee or something, and you have to say, hey guys, for now, I can't do that. Or they wanted you to help plan the open house, and you have to say, I need to delegate that to somebody else. There's got to be somebody else within the organization who can handle some of this stuff for me. But I think it's pretty obvious to say that we don't say no when the customers call, right? That's not the time that we
unless
say
they
no.
want to shoot the breeze, or
Right.
unless they want to, if it's a rush order and you can't do it, you've got to fess up and say no. But the thing about the volunteer work, I find ironic is if you're a good volunteer and you're conscientious, you get more volunteer opportunities. And those of us who are wound that way tend to say yes automatically. Oh, I'd be happy to help.
Yes.
And it's hard for us to say no. I simply can't do it. There was a guy that I was on the phone with yesterday, and he was asking me for some help on something that he wanted with his website. And ordinarily, I would have said yes. I had to say no to him. He asked me 3 times. I said, I can't do it. I can't.
Well, and it's also,
I got 2 of these.
You don't have to say no, but you get, like what I say to customers who, all of you out there listen, you're trying to get stuff from us for free. I can say I can give you 10 minutes. Okay. I'm happy to talk to you for 10 minutes on this day at this time, things like that. But yeah, I had the same situation. There's an election going on, and a woman that I campaigned for 2 years ago, I think she actually knows, oh, she has 2 more kids now and a lot going on. So she hasn't been asking me, which is really gracious of her, I think. And actually, I think this is a good opportunity to turn this around and look around you and say, there may be other people in my life who are crazy busy. Is there anything I can do to help them?
Sure.
Including your customers.
Sure.
So.
And then committing to longer hours. I worked this past Saturday, which is very, very unusual for me, but I was in here from 6:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock. And that was a very rare thing to happen. But it was one of those, I'm going to focus on sales. I'm going to put off all these project things and come in and work on Saturday. You make a commitment because it's temporary. I wouldn't want to do that all the time. That's just not me.
But it kind of felt good though, didn't it? Like I find when I work on a Saturday, it's kind of invigorating because there's a reason for it, and that there's going to be a payoff in it. And again, being very rare though, please don't make a habit of that.
It would have been better, Kelly. It would have been better if I had gotten more done. Because by the end of the day, I still had that heaviness of, I'm encumbered by these big tasks. If I had knocked down a few more, then I would have said, yeah, rocking it. That was great. But it was so much,
Yeah.
Remembering Pareto's Law. And Kelly said, you better remind me what Pareto's Law is. Okay, can you recite Pareto's Law?
That 80% of the work comes from 20% of the customers.
Right, and Pareto was a turn of the 19th century Italian who noticed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of its occupants, of its citizens. And that was the first time somebody looked at those proportion. Well, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your customers. But listen to this. 80% of your potential for income comes for 20% of the stuff on your to-do list. And when you look at it, you say, okay, so now I got some stuff on my to-do list that is a waste of time. It's neither important nor urgent, as Stephen Covey would say. And now I've got to prioritize differently. Not just differently, but also on the fly. Mm-hmm. So, again, there's that question we asked a couple weeks ago. What's the best use of my time right now? Or is what I'm doing the best use of my time right now, which is how you put it. Mm-hmm. And saying, I'm going to make good choices during the day. Keeping in mind two other things. One is keep prospecting. Keep prospecting. I had a coaching call this morning with 3 reps on the phone. All 3 of them were talking about how things have turned around for them. I've been working with them for 2 or 3 months. Things have turned around. They're going great. And I said, are you prospecting?
Crickets.
Exactly. It was funny. I had to take them to task on that. I said, guys, that's great, but you're going to be calling me in February crying.
Yeah.
Because you didn't do your work now. And it was a real, take to the woodshed kind of moment. So when it's crazy busy, keep prospecting. The other thing I want to mention that I mentioned to these guys is take care of you when it's crazy busy. All right? Simple stuff. Go for a quick walk in the morning. I've got a couple of routes. I go for walks as many times during the week as I can, 3 or 4 typically. This morning I said, I don't have time. I said, stop. You have to. And I walked 10 minutes down the road and 10 minutes back. That was my sacrifice. But you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself first, right? Including saying no. And then finally, Kelly, preparing tomorrow, going home. Why is that a good final step?
Well, you have to have a separation between your work life and your personal life too. So you have to be able to say, before I leave today, I'm going to know exactly what I'm doing tomorrow, so you can maintain some semblance of control over what's going on during the crazy busy time, but also to give yourself that break of, I do still go home. I do still have a personal life. I'm going to go home and eat dinner with my spouse and my children or whoever. I'm going to go meet a friend for a drink, whatever that is, because you'll become pretty resentful and things will start to go off the rails if you don't have some separation.
Yep, and then you want to show up tomorrow and have another efficient day, and efficient days start with a plan. Mm-hmm. So there are some crazy busy tips for you, and of course the irony here is that people who are crazy busy might not be taking 7 minutes and 45 seconds to watch a short attention span webinar.
Shame on you.
You know what? They're free. So they'll be here when things are quiet. You can back it up and look at the archived ones. All right, Ms. Malazzi, thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Bill.
And we'll talk to you all on another short attention span webinar.